So I know you guys are tired of everyone's character roster videos for Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 4 telling you to lower your expectations. I'm going to be the voice of the Dragon Ball fans right now and tell Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 4 what we're demanding, because Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 4 needs to go big or go home. Every roster video from these Dragon Ball chumps, right? They sound like echoes. Lower your expectations. Expect 50 characters at launch. Everything will be fixed with DLC. We're tired of hearing these Dragon Ball apologists, and they're the reason we keep getting these low effort games. Now don't get me wrong, I love Dragon Ball games. Xenoverse 2 is one of my favorite games. When I say low effort, I'm talking about things like character roster count, features, and fighters in Xenoverse 2 and all non-mobile games. They fit into that category of being a low effort game when it comes to roster count or features. They're always lacking in some way. And because of the Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 4 apologists, this game is going to fall into that same low effort bin. And I'm beyond caring about the candy color graphics, you know, the high saturation, all that, because no matter how good the graphics are, there's going to be a ceiling. Like, you're going to get to that point where the game can't look any better due to the hardware or due to like achieving its intended purpose of looking like the anime. But in addition to that, if I find out that the graphics are as to why I'm not getting my content, not getting my character roster, then I'm just as good without it. Like, go back to the previous graphics. Like, if that's what's really holding this game back, and that seems to be the defense mechanism that all the Dragon Ball apologists are using, then I can go without having the candy color graphics. And people are letting the name Tenkaichi sell them on this game already. But let me remind you of another game that invoked the name of Tenkaichi in order to garner sales. Let me remind you guys of Ultimate Tenkaichi. And if everyone remembers correctly, that game's roster was that magical number of 50 or 60. That same number that these Dragon Ball apologists are already approving of. Well, 50 or 60 characters. Okay, well, Ultimate Tenkaichi had 50 or 60 characters, and I was there. I remember when that game came out and we found out it was only going to have 50 or 60. That was more than like that was the main reason as to why the community rejected that game largely was because like you invoked the name of Tenkaichi and you didn't deliver on the character roster count. That is the most important thing. I mean, we had just come off of Rage and Blast 2, right? So we were at this point where we were finally getting like the missing movie characters back, like Bojack and Zanya. Cooler had just come in, just to name a few. And we were waiting on Rage and Blast 3 to finally correct the issue of having GT characters and to, like, you know, fill in the blanks with the other missing movie characters and the other henchmen. We were finally waiting to get that Tenkaichi 3 roster. And then imagine our disappointment when we finally get Ultimate Tenkaichi, right? And they do the roster reset. I think that was the actual first case, besides Rage and Blast 1, of them doing a full roster reset in the same console generation. And it was the biggest mistake they had ever made. I mean, really, I want to put you in that moment. We went from having movie characters to having almost next to no movie characters. The only GT characters we had were literally Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and Omega Shenron. Nothing else. We did not even have GT Goku. We didn't have Super Saiyan 4 Goku. No Pan. No GT Vegeta. No Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. None of that. None of that. We didn't even have base form Broly. We didn't have Super Saiyan Broly. We didn't have Zon. They cut it all the way back. And the outrage was like at a fever pitch. That didn't go away for years. And they kept on trying. And the outrage was still going. That when Battle of Z was coming out, it still got ate up. And that was even with the Dragon Ball Super content, the resurrection of F. Like they come out with Beerus and Whis at the time, and that game got decimated because it pulled the same 50 or 60 characters. That's not gonna work. I'm letting you know that is not going to work. Cause fast forward to current day, and here we are again. Just like the last time where the apologists were saying, you weren't even gonna play all those characters you're asking for. Well, I mean, you don't need them. Wait for the DLC. The roster will be fixed with the DLC. No. With DLC, If they want DLC so bad, right? Do the outfit DLC. That's all you gotta do. If you want to have something like Goku wearing the little Cell Games jacket, sure, go ahead and do it. If you want to have Krillin with his little cap and his Namek get up where he first appeared on Namek, do that. But we should not be putting characters off to DLC. The only characters that should be DLC is stuff like Moro, stuff like Granola when they get ready to cover that stuff in the anime. But anything that we've had in past Dragon Ball games or past Dragon Ball sagas, we should have it at the release. If it's been in BT3 or XB2, it should be released in this game. There should not be any put it off till tomorrow. I'm tired of Dragon Ball games always putting stuff off till tomorrow. There ain't no tomorrow. There ain't no tomorrow, Rock. We got to work like it ain't no tomorrow. That's where we are with Budokai Tenkaichi 4. It ain't no tomorrow. The base game roster needs to be big in Tenkaichi 4. Don't invoke the name of Tenkaichi if you're not gonna honor it. Tenkaichi 3 managed to get to 150 characters and beyond. More characters than we had Pokemon in the first generation. Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 4 needs to match and exceed that. It needs to shatter that. We need to be thinking 200 or 250 at this point. And I brought up mobile games because Legends and Dokkan Battle can do it. Like, it's like the console gamers and the YouTubers like to pretend like the creators and developers forgot that all the Broly forms existed. Like, they love to pretend like these developers, these creators, they love to pretend like they forget that certain characters exist. But when I look over at Dragon Ball Legends and Dokkan Battle, you know what I see? I can see Bardock's team. I can see Fasha, Borgas, Tora, Shigesh. I can see them. I can see Lord Shield. I can see the Garlic Jr. saga. I can see all those characters from Spice Boys and Garlic Jr. You know what? In Dokkan Battle, I see over there, I see Oceana Shenron. I see GT Goten. I see all these characters that we keep asking for on the console game, but we never seem to get them. Wow, what a coincidence. That memory of these characters existing, that works so well right now with the mobile games. So it's not a matter of not having these assets or not being aware of the characters. It's just a matter of planned obsolescence. For, in lamest terms and basic terms, it's planned flaws. And Tenkaichi 4, it doesn't have the same advantages that previous Dragon Ball games had before it. With Raging Blast and Xenoverse 1, those two games had unique situations. Let me explain, right? In Raging Blast 1, I like to call it the inaugural Dragon Ball game, right? Whenever we get a new console, right, we have that first inaugural Dragon Ball game. And it's pardoned for all of its mistakes because it's really an exploration into what Dragon Ball games can do on the current console, right? So when we came into PS3, the first Dragon Ball game was Raging Blast 1. Of course, we did still get Raditz through Buu Saga. We got all that same saga through Buu Saga. And, of course, in Raging Blast 2, like we expected, we got the movie characters drenched over. We got them brought over with the Brolys and the Bojacks and the Zanyas and the Cooler Armored Squadron. We even got Androids 15 and 14, along with Super 13 and all these missing characters, some of which we still don't have in Xenoverse 2. But the point is, we built up. There was a crescendo. There was a building. So with Raging Blast 3, we were expecting a, addition of Dragon Ball GT characters and a final fleshing out of the roster overall with the movie characters and the Z characters and, a good fleshing out of the GT characters. And that's honestly what we were expecting with a Xenoverse 3. Now, Tenkaichi 4 has no choice but to go big or go home on the content and the character roster. We can easily stay on mobile games, right? We can easily stay on Dragon Ball FighterZ if you play Fighters. Or we can easily stay on Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 if you're playing Xenoverse 2. I mean, we're just now getting, Beast Gohan and Orange Piccolo. So we have an up-to-date roster. Sure, we're missing some things, but if we look over at Tenkaichi 4 and they're matching the same characters, we're not going over there. Most of us are going to look over here and say, oh, we got all these characters and more. So if you're doing a roster reset, that game is going to fall flat. This is not something that Tenkaichi 4 wants to play around with. It has to go big or go home. You can't just charm us with the candy-colored graphics anymore. If that was the case, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot would be getting tons of playtime. that roster reset is not going to work anymore. We're coming off of having CACs. We're coming off of the well fleshed out roster of Xenoverse 2 that we were expecting even more on. So if you can't match it, if you can't come in here and say we're gonna have 200, 250 characters, we're gonna match what you have. If you come in with 50 or 60 characters, you are going to get exposed because all the fans are going to stay on the previous games. That's just the way that it is. And I mean, when I really think about it, why are we not at this point, right, in Dragon Ball games where I can go to the Buu Saga, play the Kid Buu origin story, and fight against West Supreme Kai, North Supreme Kai, South Supreme Kai, and play that story out, play out Kid Buu's origin, and then have a new Super Buu unlocked with the buff Buu form that's never been playable before. Like, why don't we have that, right? Why don't we have movie sagas that's not just the main big bad battle? Like, because that's where all the movie sagas eventually go. We just come in, we do the Turles fight, we're done. Why don't we have Turles' Crusher Core, right? Why don't we turn around, we look at Cooler and not just have the final form Cooler fight? Why don't we have the Cooler Armored Squadron and have that build up to the Cooler fight? Right? Why is it that every movie character we feel like we just get the main big bad fight instead of having the same thing that we have the normal sagas and having that sense of building up to these special sagas? Even better, let me do you one better. Why don't we have even more GT characters? Why are we just doing the basic, the bare minimum? Why can't we be expecting General Rildo or Oceana Shenron? Because we know, everyone knows we need more Shadow Dragons. At this point, we've had the same ones over and over again. Whenever we do get GT, can we finally get a new a female Shadow Dragon in the mix? Can we finally expect the completion of Team Bardock? Can I look up and expect to get Lord Chilled? Can I really expect to have a complete Dragon Ball Z roster without looking up, oh, we don't have Evil Boo? It's like having peanut butter, no jelly, beans, no bread. Why do we have to keep on looking up and we can easily point out that, oh, we don't have this character, therefore we don't have this battle? Because when you know when it comes to the DLC, when they do get to that point where we get to the coverage of Moro and the Granola arc, you know you don't want just Moro. You know you want all the forms of Goku, all the forms of Vegeta. You know you want the prisoners, the Galactic Patrol prisoners. You know you want that built up. You know you want Mirish. You know you want the 3 female prisoners. You know you want 7-3. And you want all the Angel form, the normal form, the Cell rip-off form of Moro. You know when we get to the Granola arc, you want all forms of Granola. But if Budokai Tenkaichi 4 is giving us 50 or 60 characters, we're never going to get to that point. We're never going to get to a point again where Dragon Ball games are pushing the envelope, because then we're going to have to go through another DLC cycle where they're releasing the same characters as DLC as they released in Xenoverse, as they released in other Dragon Ball games, the same characters. Oh look, Kefla DLC. Oh look, Jiren DLC. Oh look, Ultra Instinct Goku DLC. When we've already had these characters before, Dragon Ball games are going to keep feeling stagnant if all the DLC cycles feel exactly the same. The only thing that Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 4 needs to say is go big or go home. Because no matter what you slap on the box, what name you slap on the box, if you open with 50 or 60 characters, it's a done deal. Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 4, you can go big, or our wallets are going to stay home.